I started at then United Motors, 1987, and I continued until retirement at, on 20, at 2010.
Okay.
Position held longest and up till retirement were warehouse supervisor and stores controller, general functions and areas of responsibilities,
Right.
you know. So your first question would be, how was the operations changed since you started out?
Yes, yes. We'd like to hear more of that, because the other
Yeah.
day I was telling someone that 20 years ago, just 20 years ago, we used paper manuals, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So we'd have to,
Cardex.
yeah, and it's usually like five, six of us fighting over the
Yes.
one manual,
Yes,
right? To
indeed.
serve one customer. You get what I'm
Indeed.
saying? And now everything
Indeed.
is a click of a button. You can even use your phone now to research parts. So
Exactly.
I want to tell everyone now how difficult it was back then when you only had paper manuals and no computers.
Oh my gosh, man. Let me tell you something. It was very difficult because it was so easy to overlook vital situations and parts and then end up, having that's why the stock control at the time never seemed to be right.
Yes.
You understand?
Hmm.
You couldn't really give a good reflection of what the stock was. You see, and then having to use paper, paper for everything, pen and paper, count here and put there, and you just could never be accurate. It was very difficult.
Yes.
Although we gradually made some technical changes along the way,
Hmm.
which to sort of improve up things for ourselves.
Yes.
And as a result of that, it did very well in terms of development at that time,
Yeah.
you know. So that was how the operations really started out.
Hmm.
It was never easy because, as you say, we had to use a cardex.
Yes.
We had to, boy, I tell you something.
I know, man. I jog in your memory now. I know that
Yeah, man.
it's happy memories because
Yes,
those were the challenges you had at the time.
very much, very challenging,
Yeah.
very
Yeah,
challenging.
man.
And
Go ahead with the Cardex. Let them understand exactly what the Cardex
yeah,
was.
the cardex was a very technical situation because, for one, you had to look very carefully at the cardex, the way it was situated.
Hmm.
Sometimes, sometimes what you think you see on the cardex is not really what is there. You
Yes.
have to look very closely. You remember the little one that was on top of the bin,
Hmm.
where Shreves and Swaby and them man used to fight over. Then
Yes.
you had one for the Hino.
Yes. 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 I remember. Yeah.
And I'm telling you, it was a real battle.
Yes,
But
because
you
Swaby
know,
and Shreves at the time, those were the two guys who specialized in Hino.
Hino, yeah,
Well,
they
we
specialize in
pronounce it
Hino.
Hino in the States, but Hino.
Yeah, yeah, and basically when we wanted the Hino, really mastered the Hino thing apart from Swaby and Shreves. I
Yes.
think you were one who kind of broke the seal where that is concerned.
Well, yeah, I wanted to learn. I had to learn it
Yes,
because if
yes,
Swaby and Shreves weren't around, we couldn't have the customer there waiting.
exactly. But Shreves, boy, I tell you something. You can't ask Shreve for an item more than once.
Yes, 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 yeah, yeah. It was a special personality.
Yeah, special personality. Very, very, very good person though to work with. He brought a lot of flair and a little fun to the working situation.
Yes, yes.
Well, Swabe now was more business like and things
Hmm.
like. So that was it with that part of the early development. We had to institute changes with the cardiac situation and stock control and the stock position. We had to gradually make it easier for ourselves. So now your third, are you ready for your third question?
Yes, man, go ahead.
What were your biggest challenges? Oh, boy, let me tell you something. We had to ensure that all appropriate safety regulations were being followed,
Yes.
both regards to personal safety and safety of the inventory.
Yes, yes. And this
That
was
was
this was in the confines of the warehouse because
in the
yes,
confines of the warehouse.
yes, because safety was a big deal. Exactly. We could
Very,
have we could have parts sticking out or hanging out. Heavy parts are stored at the bottom.
very much,
Like similar and like parts are stored together. And at the same
very
time, now
much.
we had to differentiate a lot of the bins in order to
That's
have
right.
ease of access. Yeah.
That's right. And if you remember carefully, there was a slight accident in the warehouse on one occasion,
Mm-hmm.
which a slight fire was started. Some repairs were taking place and it came down.
Yeah.
And but we blew it out because we had a lot of fire
Fire
extinguishers
extinguishers around the
within the
warehouse. Yes.
confines
Yeah.
of the
That was a
warehouse.
part of the safety standard. Yes.
Which was that was a must. The guys would come and test it probably every week to make sure that they were working. Well, it comes right back to what defensive mechanism used or was used at the time. Well, we as I said, we had to be very, very creative at that time because we didn't have the fluctuations of things like Kaizen and that sort of thing
Mm-hmm.
at that time.
At that time, yes, yes.
So we had
Yeah,
to.
Kaizen was new to
Kaizen
us.
came,
Yeah,
came
Kaizen
further
was
down in
new
the
to us, but
90s.
Kaizen was introduced to us in the early 2000s.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes,
At the end of the 90s, going into 2000, if
yes.
my memory serves me right,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and that was that was one of the defensive mechanisms that we had to resort to. Or if you remember, like for on a weekend, you would have probably 12 or 13 containers
Yes,
that, and they were not small containers like a
yes,
20 foot, they were
yes,
40 foot.
yes. I mentioned that in a podcast I just posted that one
Mm-hmm.
of the joy of working inside the warehouse were emptying the 40-foot and 60-foot containers.
Yes.
It will take us the entire day, and we had to have the manpower.
Yeah, we had to, in other words, we only could do it on a weekend
Yes.
because doing it in the week would infringe on the staff one way or the other
Mm-hmm.
because you need people on the front
On the
counter.
yes, on the counter, yes.
And to resort back to that now, yeah, so we had to do it on the weekends. And that was indeed a learning experience for a lot of youngsters. And I mean, we did it in such a way that it became like a relaxed situation.
Yeah.
You could actually enjoy doing the work.
Yeah, of course,
That
of
is
course.
what we.
That was the type of environment we had set. And because everything was done manually, we had to use manpower. You remember the rope on the chain of the forklift to pull it out.
Indeed,
And then we had to
indeed.
use the strength of the arms to lift the
Yes,
boxes down. And then we
yes,
have to pull open the boxes, take out each
exactly,
part individual
exactly,
part, check it against the
exactly,
invoices that were there, mark it off, right? And
exactly,
then we give that slip to the inventory controller and I would input that part manually into the system for sale.
exactly, exactly. That is how we had to do it. We occasionally you would have probably a slight accident, but nothing that really got out of control.
Mm-hmm.
As I mentioned, I had to be careful who I gave the forklift to
To
operate.
operate. Yeah, yeah. It was a very old Toyota forklift.
Yes,
I think the
and
manufacturer date on it was something like 1972, 1974.
yeah,
So we
yeah,
had to be
yeah,
nursing it as much as possible.
exactly. And it did the job, but
Yes.
It's only when we got the bigger forklifts now, the more modern machines that we realize that, boy, you know, we were we were doing most of the work for the forklift. But
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
tell you,
Yeah.
man,
Yeah.
I say you you have what what are your suggestions recommending to the dealership?
Yes, because I
Well,
mean, why I asked that question is because with the vast amount of experience that you had working
mhm.
from the 1980s up until the late 2000, I
Yes,
mean,
indeed.
yeah, I mean, and then you also acted in the role of consultancy for a number of
Yes,
us. Yeah, because a number
yes,
of
indeed.
a lot of the junior staff looked up to you and you trained them in terms of warehouse management and operations,
Yes, I did.
right? And
Yes, I did.
you were there, and you went through a lot of managers, you went
Yes,
through a lot of managing directors, you went through a lot of changes that
yes.
happened both on the
But,
local scene and
but then the men,
also, yeah, and also on the international market, because as you know, anything that transpires on the global market affects the automotive industry directly. It impacts it,
indeed.
right? And you were able to withstand all that storm and all that weather.
Yes, indeed.
So
And
describe to us some of the changes that you
well,
experienced over the
some of the
years.
changes that I came through, I want to first speak about you because you were a great part of that. And as a matter of fact, when certain questions were asked as to who run the department, I at no time hesitated to mention you. And although in doing it, I said, boy, I don't know because Chris so young, I don't know if they're going to really exactly as we wanted.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
you
because at the time they wanted someone young to lead the organization, to grow into the organization. But at the time, I think they saw me as too young. But I didn't realize how young I was until I attended my first workshop outside of Jamaica. And I was the
mhm.
youngest manager in the entire region at the
But
time. And at the time I think I was 31 years of age.
yes, yes. A lot of people was in doubt, but I had a certain amount of faith in you, boy, and I went head over heels and said, yes, I support the promotion of Mr. Clark to that position.
Yeah, man. I thank you
And it
for it, and I
didn't feel,
appreciated it because the
yeah,
support I got for you was second to none.
yeah, exactly. You didn't let us down. You were brilliant because you must remember, that we ran that place for 15 years without having a strike
Yeah.
or any kind of, internal situation like that. And I mean, that was your being in that position was one of that reasons, one of the reasons why that occurred,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So as I say now, um, our suggestions was that checking and verifying shipping records and in questions or concern of shipping shortages, averages and out addressing any problem with inventory control. And we made a lot of changes at that point
Yeah.
because things were moving rapidly now. We were coming into the Kaizen year, and you remember the hauling down and things that we had to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
the Japanese were always around. But one thing I really appreciate and admire about these Japanese, Chris, was the way that they came and Mr. Takeuchi would
Mm-hmm.
take off his suit and kneel down and work with us.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they didn't hesitate to tell us the intricacies and things like that about
Yeah, yeah, it was
Japanese
we
management.
were being exposed to a totally different culture and how they
Exactly.
operate in the East as opposed to our egotistical mindset here in the West.
Yes, indeed,
Yeah,
indeed, indeed, and it bore fruit for them because Toyota was always on top from in the middle 90s coming right down.
Yeah.
Always on top.
Always.
And as I say, we did a lot. Now at this point, our checking and verifying shipping records, handling of questions or concerns of shipping shortages was basically sometimes things got broken outside of the premises.
Yeah.
The container would come, we open it, and you remember what we found. On more than one occasion,
Mm-hmm.
and as I say, those are the times now you have to be on your feet, you have to be on your toes.
Yeah.
Be careful when you're dealing with incoming goods and all that.
Right.
We
had to be checking all of that, and then
yes,
part of the process we changed. Remember, after a while, we got the approval from customs at the time when they implemented. I think it was a AES system. I don't quite remember the acronym, where we could have directly bypassed a lot of the customs regulations and have the container sent directly to us.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And then we will just unpack and everything. And all they will do is just do an inspection every now and then, because they gave us the approval as a certified importer. Yes. Because of the trust, and our documentations were always up to speed, and it gave them the scrutiny to audit us anytime. So that was based on the trust that we had developed over the years.
Yeah, well, I mean, with the sort of business that Toyota was turning over at the time. I mean,
yeah,
they were definitely looked at favorably in terms of requirements to continue with the building of Toyota.
Yeah, of course, because we were bringing in a container every week. A 40-foot container would be on the premises every week.
Yes,
and that's the type of volume we were turning over.
Yes, you had streamlined that part of it, where it was more comfortable in dealing with that kind of movement of parts per week, as against the old days when you do have 12, 13 containers coming in
all at once. Yeah. We had to look at streamlining the lead time parameters. So that was something I also looked in, and the logistics aspect of it.
Yes, that was something that you bear a lot of responsibility for, and it made things much easier, to identify and not being worried to have one container waiting for a week before you can touch it.
Yeah. And the customer will be there. The customer will be there patiently. Well, not patiently, just frustrated because they needed that part to purchase to repair their cars. But
exactly.
I want you to go back more and take us along memory lane now, in terms of some of the things you saw, or some of the things you experienced throughout the years.
Well,
I know it's a lot. I know it's a lot. I know it's over 30 years you worked in the industry for.
Yes, indeed, boy. I'll tell you, we changed the complete configuration of the warehouse.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, from one appearance to another. I thought that things like Kaizen would be coming, a step up in technology would be coming to support the movement of goods and services. So we had to be there with it.
Yes.
We had to step up with technology. And I think we did a fair job, As I say again, with you boy, you really surprised me with you saw things ahead that a lot of us didn't even think of. And but that's why it wasn't difficult to pick you out in terms of the development.
Yeah, the secret was, and I mentioned this in other podcasts, is that I was given enough training at the top
Oh
And
yes.
it's kind of sad that
Yeah.
what my wish was to get the staff to be
Mhm.
exposed to the type of training that I underwent, because
Yeah.
I went to Japan, I went to South Africa, and I saw how they operated. And what I did was I just took those concepts and brought it back to Jamaica and customized it to fit our requirements. You get what I'm saying? So that was one of the reasons why things were able to move so fast, so rapidly. And a lot of persons bought into it. But at the same time, no, you saw the changes and
Yeah.
you accepted the changes, and it bore results.
Yes, 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 indeed. And I tell you something, how it appeared to me is that probably, boy, somebody older than you probably would not have withstood that rapid movement
Mm.
around the world to get the kind of technology within your head as you did, you know. So uh, probably the age group was the right choice also. Yeah, man. And there are a lot of things, Chris, that, there are a lot of happy moments, and there were some sad times when, people that we work with for years probably would have some kind of problem, and death and all that. We attended quite a few funerals.
Yeah, I remember the funerals. I sat down the other day and I was counting on one hand how many of persons we worked closely
Yeah,
made the transition.
exactly. And boy, thank God we're still around. And we can discuss these things,
Yes, yes,
even
yes.
even even notwithstanding this terrible pandemic.
Pandemic that we're in right now, and it has, and really and truly, it's one of the reasons why we're here, because it has forced a lot of us to reach out and to
Yeah,
reflect, right,
yes, indeed.
and to honor those who have been there before us.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, man. You see, we have ensured at Toyota, though, that we were in a position to prepare for an ever-changing market.
Mm-hmm.
Because, as I say, with the income of Kaizen,
Yeah,
it, it made a big difference as to how Kaizen could almost speak without a manual touch.
yeah,
And not by I mean, in other words, Kaizen, the only thing left for Kaizen to do is get up, walk from out of the bin, come to the sales counter and sell itself.
mm-hmm.
Because Kaizen was, although it did take some work to put it all together,
Yeah, yeah,
but it was a
it
great,
did. Yeah,
yeah, it was a great step upwards in terms of development and technology. You know, couldn't we can't could never exist in this time without something like Kaizen.
yeah,
But then again, we were changing rapidly throughout the years, but the technology came from Japan with this Kaizen, and we employed it to the best of our ability, and made us. It was successful right down the line. I don't know exactly what Toyota is using now. Have they applied anything new to the Kaizen effect, Chris?
yes. It's continually improving, So
Mm-hmm.
as the notion goes, you're always
Okay.
finding innovating ways to do business. You get
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying? With the Toyota production system, it's constantly changing, constantly moving ahead. Right now,
Mm-hmm.
Toyota is the number one manufacturer. And I was telling someone that Toyota has always been number one. They just don't want to be number one. Right.
Indeed.
And yeah, and every time they go to number one, they find some reason to knock themselves from the number one position because they don't want the spotlight.
Indeed.
They're basically happy with how they're doing business.
Yeah.
The part of the problem is it's at the dealership level now, where you have the infighting and the egos, and everybody wants to be the boss and
Mm-hmm.
display a certain amount of, well, I wouldn't call it decorum, but hostility
Mm-hmm.
once they get there, and that is where the ego comes in. But at the
Oh, I
same time, now
see.
you have, because Toyota prides itself on the way they do business, at the same time, now each dealership is ranked based on the policies and standards and guidelines that
Indeed.
Toyota wants them to operate at, right? And that is why you'll have the top 10 dealerships within a particular region. They are the ones will continue to be successful because
Mhm.
they are the ones adhering to the policies that are set
Yeah.
out. And they do
Yeah.
a lot of benchmarking, best practices,
Yeah.
training facilities for the staff. The customers are happy. They're
Mhm.
constantly looking at their market share, improving their UIO, utilizing after sales strategies. Marketing is also big on their agenda, but
Yeah.
they are the ones who look at their absorption rate and say, okay, we're going to concentrate on that, because by maintaining a high absorption rate of over 80%,
Mhm.
it will eventually resonate in happy customers, happy employees. So if
Oh,
you
yeah.
have both the internal and external stakeholders as happy as ever, well, the sky's the limit. And then you
Yes,
find that
indeed.
the ones that are not in the top 10, those are the ones that are having the challenges. They have the high staff turnovers, right? They have the falling out at the top. They're having problems with their policies. They're having problems with their customer base, and the list goes on.
Mhm. I well, you know, I see where Toyota has kind of become quiet in the states, but I don't know how true it is. It's somebody I heard making that suggestion, but I don't know. I don't know how true that is.
Well,
You
the
know.
state is kind of different because it's broken down into different regions. Who is
Mm-hmm.
responsible for where,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And that is where some of the options
Mm-hmm.
itself, it depends on who reports to who reports where, who reports to who.
Oh.
Because whereby in Jamaica you have one dealership that is responsible for the entire country,
Mm-hmm.
for the entire country. In where I am right now, in my region, you'll have 4 or 5 dealerships competing against each other. And they're
Mm-hmm.
not only competing against each other, they're competing against other manufacturers and brands as well.
Yeah. That has come into the ring at a much lower cost
Exactly,
and all
exactly.
that.
So so there's a number of factors they have to look into. But at the same time, one of the disadvantage you have now, and I always attack the top. And the main reason why I attack the top
What
is that
about rollback?
rollback.
Mm-hmm.
Explain.
Price cuts and all that kind of thing.
Cost
Oh,
cuts.
oh, oh. Mm-hmm.
The thing is, things are always changing.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the reasons why a lot of manufacturers, they will find innovative ways to cut cost, meaning that they will take a plant from, they will no longer be manufacturing their cars
Mm-hmm.
in one region. They will move it to another country,
Mm-hmm.
because one of the highest costs you have is labor cost. So they will
Labor
try
cost.
to, yeah, labor cost is one thing. And then they'll look at materials as well, which is another thing, right? And then now they will look at another, so for parts distribution, they'll look at another region now in order to distribute their parts from. So they will ship their parts directly from Japan to a holding area in, say, Thailand or Malaysia or Cambodia,
Yeah.
right? And they will have their transshipments from there in terms of part supplyability, right? So they look at a number of ways in order to keep their costs down. But
Yes.
one of the things that you will never find them doing is cutting the cost of a car. That can only be done from the dealership level.
Yeah.
And well, based
I
on
don't
my
know.
knowledge, because I'm not sure what they're doing now in terms of cost, but if you look at it itself, the cost is never going down, because
So,
in 1995, I'm going to be using Jamaican dollars. In 1995, the cost of a Corolla was $330,000,
yes.
right? So
Yes.
let's use that analogy. And in 2000 and in 2010, the cost of a Corolla was around 1.9, almost $2 million.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? So
Yes.
yes, it will never go down. And then you have inflation and rate of exchanges, and government government duties are always increasing because the
Mhm.
government has to find a way in order to maintain the expenditure and the budget at all times. So there are a number
So
of
in other
factors.
words,
Yeah,
mhm,
there are a number of
pandemic or
factors.
no pandemic or no pandemic, the show have to go on.
The show has to go
You
on.
know.
And especially now in the pandemic, we're not talking about cars, we're talking about food. Look at how food prices are skyrocketed.
Mhm. Oh my gosh. You know. But Chris, there is another factor that we have to look at, you know, climate change.
Yeah.
Climate change is now one of the creators of problems. As a matter of fact, the main creator of problems
Mm-hmm.
throughout the world,
Yeah.
climate change. Climate change, in one way or another, has created problems in countries that are not even fully developed for agriculture.
Yeah.
You understand? If you see the kind of um, desperation taking place in some of these places, you have to wonder.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, but as you said, we have to find a way to 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 come out of climate change, to sort of doing something opposite to to the things that would create climate change.
Yeah.
So that is a very important factor. There are factors that it is proven scientifically that they create gases and things like that to cause climate change.
Mm-hmm.
That is another situation that has to be looked at,
Yeah.
that has to be balanced.
And it's one of the reasons why car manufacturers now, like Toyota, like Tesla, like everybody else, are looking at
Electric,
alternative ways in terms of emission control,
yeah,
right?
electric.
We have electric cars going out there,
Mm-hmm.
right? But the drawback to electric cars, they run on batteries. When those
Mm-hmm.
batteries are to be disposed of, where do you dump it?
Okay, okay,
You get
yes.
what I'm saying? So
That,
we're looking at,
that,
yeah, we're looking at one end, but you're creating problems on the other end.
mm,
And I read in an article the other day, following up with Toyotas again, they're producing and testing hydrogen cars. So
yeah.
they're also looking at another alternative to the ever-growing problems, right? So whereby everybody wants a Tesla or a Neo or a Lucid Motors or whoever they want to buy their cars from, or Chevy has the Bolt, and
Mm,
Ford utilizing Ford electric F-150s are coming out. You have to
yes.
look at that well. So the technology is changing in trying to
Trying
do
to
their
live
part.
with,
Yeah, to do
yeah.
their part in contributing to the effects of climate change. However,
Yes, you see.
however, what about the other components, which is the part itself? When that car gets old, it goes to a dumping ground. It goes to a scrapyard.
With
What do you
everything.
Yeah, what do you do with all those disposable items?
Exactly.
So there are
That,
no, there are a number of factors that people are missing out.
yes.
They're not looking at, right? It's either
Yeah.
you burn it or you crush it. After you burn it or you crush it, where does that residue go?
It becomes what you call it? It becomes a kind of attraction
Mm-hmm.
to some sort of nuclear development. When I use the word nuclear, I don't mean nuclear in itself, but it attracts certain gases and things like that because those parts are you know they used to dump them in the sea
Right.
and they find that those things don't work again
Okay. Okay. Okay.
because it creates an environment that is deadly.
Yeah, especially we see, not to digress, and we've seen reports of whales and other species of the oceans being affected by the plastic that is being dumped in the ocean and all these things.
Aye, exactly. You
Mm-hmm.
know.
Yeah.
So you see, it comes right back to how should we prepare for an ever-changing market,
Yeah.
you know? And why there are so many things, but right there, I would say that ensure that warehouse operations are coordinated, efficient, and compliant with international best practices.
Yeah.
That is all that at that level that we can do to, 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 to serve that part of it. I don't and I always say this, boy, Toyota is really one step ahead.
Ahead. Yeah, and we've seen it because tell us about your brief stint when you went over by Ford. We had to use a
Oh
lot of
yeah.
we had to use a lot of the Kaizen activities that we learned from Toyota in order to get Ford moving forward.
Indeed, indeed. I mean, we had to apply the Kaizen structure in terms of the parts department. We had to change up the configuration of the parts department to apply the Kaizen structure.
Yeah.
That was really needed, and we did that. It Ford, is a good vehicle, but if you, like every other motor vehicle, if you don't apply the proper structures, the backup things like Kaizen, this Kaizen operation is a worldwide thing. Any motor vehicle company, most of them use it. Probably they may have it and call it something else. But when you look at it, Kaizen is was really the way to go.
Yeah.
At the time when we got it. And we applied it in other places and it worked.
Yeah.
Because we applied it next door and it worked. That is the way things are. Well, as I said, Chris, in my time at Toyota, I made special accomplishments too.
Yeah.
I was promoted to supervisory position in 1996. And then I served as a chief union delegate for approximately 15 years. And I never had a strike. I led company negotiations on behalf of staff with trade unions to the acceptance of the company's financial offers.
Yeah.
I have never gone overboard or beyond what is naturally inhuman. A lot of people would say that, boy, you have to be for this side or you have to be that side. We never operated like that. We never did, and that is how that is how we felt it should be. You have to give everybody a fair deal, a good pound, and you can't show weakness to one side with any kind of unbalanced situation. You have to be fair. So we had really came out on top where those things were concerned. I even had to negotiate with you at times.
We remember I was a delegate.
Yes.
And I was assistant to you.
Yes.
At the time. Yeah. And I remember going into the first negotiation meetings and I was just sitting there to observe, how the elders negotiate, because I was just looking and understanding because I was fairly new. Yourself and it was Vincent Morrison, right?
Yeah, Vincent Morrison.
Yeah, at the time. And then we sat there with I think it was Mr. Gokul, and then it was Mr. Matsura, the CEO, managing director at the time. And I was just there to sit and observe and listen, how protocols underwent, and I was making notes. I didn't want to interject into the more seasoned guys like yourself who knew exactly what negotiations were all about. And then, and then as times went by, they saw how how I spoke and thing, and I think it was at that point Mr. Matsura saw the potential, right?
Yes,
and I was promoted shortly. But
Matsura was the one who made the call.
Yes, he was the managing director at the time.
Yes.
But I never regretted it because I got the opportunity to learn from so much.
Yes, man.
Right? And one of the principles I learned from Toyota is to learn from our predecessors and exceeds our predecessors respectfully. right? So that is also
Yeah,
one of the
man.
guiding principles of Toyota.
Mhm.
And I was studying Kaizen from the moment the TTC took over at the time,
Yes,
right? So
yes.
a lot of the principles I understood, I learned them, and then I applied it, and it paid off for me
In advance.
in advance. Yes,
Mhm.
and it actually paid off. So that was one of the many secrets.
Yeah,
So
man.
I'm
Yeah.
just sharing it. I'm just sharing it with you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man.
Well, and whosoever is listening right now, that is one of the many secrets. Understand the process, read ahead, and try to apply some of what you've learned
Yeah,
throughout, and
man.
it will pay off eventually,
Yes, it
right?
did.
But
It
one of the
did.
questions I would ask you for the younger generation coming in or who want to come in, what would be your advice to them?
Well, in these times when a youngster steps into a place like a Toyota operation to look for a job, he has got to be very sure of what kind of responsibility he can take on, what part of Toyota he would best function in, or, and choose carefully, because these times are a little more difficult uh, than a part of our times, based
Mhm.
on the physical barriers that are now placed before us. So a youngster has got to be I don't know, they have to display much more strength and qualities.
Mhm.
And the fact that the honesty is one of the greatest policy where they are concerned nowadays. Because the first thing a manager is going to look for, or the person who is dealing with the youngster coming in, is going to look for is how honest is this young man? And then you will think about that before anything else.
Yeah.
You know
Especially working in a warehouse environment, because
exactly because of
people,
the safety.
that was one of the negative side of working in the warehouse,
Mhm.
right? People are always going to look at you in a
Yes,
certain way, thinking
yes,
that pilfering goes on inside there,
yeah,
and that's one of the challenges you have in maintaining your integrity, because you're
agreed.
working with small items, you're working with high priced items. So at
Mhm.
all times, you will have this albatross over you,
Exactly,
thinking that is he one of
exactly,
them? You get what I'm saying? Yeah.
exactly.
And when I
That's the
came
thing.
here in Canada, I wanted to implement a lot of the things that I learned over the years working in the
Mhm.
Toyota environment, but it was a challenge
I
because,
can
again,
imagine.
yeah, a number of factors, right?
Yes, I can imagine.
The profile that is here in the north,
Mhm.
the 6'5" white, blonde hair, blue eyed
Oh,
guys.
that
That,
kind of
yeah,
thing.
that's that, and these are some of the things that people have been hitting out against over the years in terms of the patriarchy. But it's not so
Mhm.
much of a patriarchy; it's an image that they
Yeah,
foresee,
yeah.
and it's going to take a while to
Break it
actually
down.
to break that image itself. And the best way to go about it is, do your own thing.
Yeah,
Just go
indeed.
ahead, do your own thing. There are a number of tools available right now that you can, you know, go and do your passion, enjoy your passion, try to build on something, become an entrepreneur,
Yes,
right?
indeed.
If the dealership wants you, in my sense now, then we're gonna have to meet at the table and say, okay, this is exactly what I want, and I will guarantee this for you. But
Yeah.
it's not going to happen. Well, maybe not my lifetime, but
Well,
yeah, I've
yeah.
I've encountered enough of it here to to see exactly what it is. And even in Jamaica, that's basically where it was. Because if you look at the management structure, even in Jamaica, of some of these dealerships, I'm not saying all, I'm saying some,
Mhm.
right? Of some of these dealerships, and you look at the executive level,
Yeah.
and look at the reflection. You get what
Mhm.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's, yeah. If you look at the reflection, you'll know exactly what it is all about. And then you look at the
Yeah,
leadership at the very top, then
yeah,
you understand exactly where they're coming from.
yeah. You see, one of the things that we, you, yourself and me can reflect on is that we never bow to any kind of pressure from anybody. And we always had one another in a protective way. You understand? And that is where you're going to succeed. The fact that you're a strong young man, and I say young man because you don't look a day older than the day you came to Toyota. No, serious. I don't know. I'm puzzled, boy. Yeah.
Maybe it's just a genetics. That's all.
Well,
Eating
whatever it is.
properly. I try to exercise. I'm in discipline where the exercise is concerned, but that's
Mm.
basically what it is. Get a lot of rest.
You know that
Partying and
I'm.
all. Yeah, I don't party anymore.
Yeah, yeah,
Alcohol, you
yeah.
you cut that down to the minimum.
Yes, indeed. You know that I'm 76 now.
Exactly. If you didn't say your age, yeah, and it
Yeah.
doesn't show. You look like
No,
you're still in your early 50s.
I still, consider myself lucky based on the trials and tribulations, the pandemic and all that. I had to take 2 AstraZeneca
Okay.
months ago. So,
Okay. You got your COVID shot, so you're
COVID.
you're you're trying to be safe, of course.
Anyway, Chris, this was good.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, man.
so whenever you're
This
ready
platform
again,
was built for persons like yourself.
yeah.
They have the stories, they want to tell
Mhm.
it, they want to
Yeah.
share it they want to share it to the world. And again, I appreciate you taking the time out to
Yes.
come and share your experiences with us, because I
Yes.
wanted people to know exactly what took place behind the scenes of the
Yes.
various dealerships and the people who work behind the scenes, and
Yeah.
what they undergo, what are the challenges they encounter, what were some of the strategies they used, and basically what is their advice to those who want to come in or those who are standing on the outside looking in.
Doing it with you, it made it quite easier because you were a great part of the whole experience. So, organize another one whenever you're ready.
Of course. Well, of course. Whenever you have
Yeah.
some more stories you want to share with me, just reach out. I'll be more than happy.
Okay. I can promise you that.
Of course. Well, not too late though, because
Oh,
the clock is ticking, anything can
yeah.
happen.
All right, Chris.
Okay. Yeah, man. You take care, and I will talk again.
Yeah, definitely.